Hey, Jeannie,
Yeah, Brew.
where are we?
We are at Pearl Street Studios at 22 Pearl Street in Central Square, Cambridge.
Well, what are we doing?
We're doing a nerd show in person.
All right. And who's our guest?
Today we have Carlson from Synapse Energy Economics. Hey, Ellen.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm really excited about our topic today. Ellen worked on the technical potential of solar study for the DOER, and people love that thing.
So what have you been doing in Massachusetts?
Well, 2 years ago, I think we were hired by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources to do a technical potential of solar study, where we analyzed the suitability for solar in the state of Massachusetts in light of our climate goals that the state has set out in the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. So Synapse ran a whole GIS analysis, geospatial analysis of the land available in Massachusetts for constructing solar, and worked with a group of stakeholders to analyze the suitability of land in Massachusetts for building solar, across a wide variety of suitability criteria.
So to my understanding is that we got about 3 gigawatts of solar in the state.
Yes.
And we need about 10 times that much.
Yes. Yeah. Under the CECP, the Clean Energy and Climate Plan, Massachusetts needs about 25 to 35 gigawatts of solar. And currently we have about 3 gigawatts installed across the state.
Yeah. So can we fit all that solar?
Well, our analysis showed that there's a technical potential for solar in Massachusetts of over 500 gigawatts.
Wow.
Okay, so that's plenty. That's
Yes.
plenty of headroom.
And that's just the technical potential. So only screening out places where it's not possible to build solar or not allowed to build solar. So that's where we took all of the parcels in Massachusetts and then removed building setbacks and removed impervious surfaces like roads. We removed areas that are protected open space and wetlands, any place that you can't build solar. And what was remained was enough land to build 506 gigawatts of solar. And that includes building mounted solar, canopy or parking lot solar, and ground mounted solar.
Okay. So not just land. Tell us a bit about the GIS analysis that you did and what criteria you used in developing it.
Definitely. So the first step of the GIS analysis was to take all of the parcels, which are units of property for property tax purposes. So that covers the entire state. And we first calculated the technical potential by taking out all of those setbacks, protected areas, et cetera. And then we worked with the stakeholder group to identify 6 different suitability criteria that we graded each parcel's solar potential based on those suitability criteria. We gave each parcel a score of A, B, or C for each of the 6 criteria. And the criteria were agriculture, embedded carbon dioxide, biodiversity, other ecosystem services that included things like wellhead protection areas, slope and aspect. So is the land shaped correctly to properly host solar, and electric infrastructure. And so we assess that by how close that parcel is to an electric substation. So for each of those suitability criteria, we analyzed that parcel's solar potential and said whether there's a lot of land in that parcel that is protected area or is important for biodiversity or has a lot of embedded carbon. And if so, we gave it a lower score, a score of C. If it had none of those criteria, then we gave it a score of A.
Can you talk about the embedded carbon criteria? What types of things would have a high score?
So forested land or areas with a lot of plants, especially larger deep growth forests. We use data from a study done by the Nature Conservancy, I think, TNC. They did an analysis of foregone carbon sequestration and embedded carbon in New England. And we took that data and analyzed the embedded carbon across the state and used that to determine our suitability thresholds.
How would you characterize the conclusion? If we can meet the goal in the state about 300 gigawatts, cited in places that are appropriate, but minimal disruption to trees and respecting places with biodiversity and how would you characterize the overall result?
I think this is a great place to bring up some figures. So we can look at how we've scored all of the parcels, all of the technical potential of solar. We have this great graph. It's on our story map website. We break out the total solar potential for each type of solar by the combined suitability score across all 6 suitability criteria. So in this graph, you'll see all of these scores of letters, of 6 sequential letters. And then this graph shows only parcels that received all A or B scores, no C or less suitable scores. And we found that there's 150 or so gigawatts of solar that receives only A or B scores, which is much more than needed to meet the climate goals. Of that, there's about 30 or 40 gigawatts of solar that receives all A scores for rooftop and canopy, which is pretty ideal because that means there's no land use implications. However, installing only building mounted solar or canopy solar is more expensive than large ground mounted utility scale solar projects. And so that would be going completely along a building mounted solar path to meet our climate goals of 25 to 35 gigawatts would be more expensive than ground mounted. So when we look at just ground mounted, there is still a lot of both large and small ground mounted solar with suitability scores of all A's or B's. And so this kind of high level result is that there is plenty of available land, both ground mounted area and building mounted or canopy solar to meet the climate goals that doesn't receive a C score of less suitable.
So for people who are concerned about solar causing clear cutting and reduction of forest, the trees versus solar question, I think what you're saying is that we could meet our state's aggressive 30 gigawatts goal for solar in the Commonwealth on roofs and roofs and canopies, mm-hmm. or land-based, mm-hmm. while minimizing impacts. And probably we should do a combination of the two, just because it sort of balances cost and spreads the projects and mm-hmm. citing and impacts and risks around.
Exactly.
That's a happy result.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is we have this map, the story map that we've published that allows anyone to go and look at all of the parcels in Massachusetts. So we can take a look at our main map here, and you can see the suitability scores for all of these parcels scored in all A's, mostly A's, mixed suitability, or mostly C's. And so if someone is looking at a few different areas to build solar, they could take a look at this map and say, well, this area gets all A's and has less impacts on biodiversity or embedded carbon versus this one that, well, doesn't score so well for something like important agricultural soils. And so this is one way that this map could be used.
So what have you heard about how people are using the map?
That's a great question. We get a lot of questions about this map's data. A lot of people interested in kind of peeking underneath the hood and taking a look at the scores and how we calculated things. We've gotten some questions from students looking to do their own analysis with this data, or folks who are interested in how this impacts our state's net metering policy, or kind of the implications of this for Massachusetts net metering programs, which has been really cool to see continual engagement in this, even though we published it last year.
That's really cool. So would you say that the data available by parcel was pretty consistent across the state?
No.
Oh.
A big part of this analysis was a lot of data cleaning, and a lot of sorting through this massive database of over 2 million parcels in using GIS, and cleaning and sorting and identifying the parcel use types for each parcel. So in our map, you can see if you click on a parcel, we identify the parcel type. So whether it's a residential parcel or a commercial parcel or a municipal government parcel, and we identify the location. We also identify whether that parcel contains a landfill or a brownfield or is already developed. That's another thing that could be important if you're deciding between two areas to build solar. Maybe one of them already has buildings or other things on it, and so would be less of an impact, whereas an undeveloped parcel, there would be more an impact on the land.
Is there data on where rooftop solar already exists?
Yes, that was another big data cleaning task. We pulled data from the Massachusetts SMART program, the SREC program, and municipal solar programs, and we matched the addresses of existing solar locations to the parcel addresses. And we matched, roughly 85% using this method. It's kind of a rough geocoding type thing to be able to say whether a parcel already has existing solar. And that's something that the map also shows, is how much existing solar is on that parcel.
I wonder on this building if it will tell you the potential, because I know the setbacks are a real issue. 22 per row. Out of curiosity.
So there's a potential for 10 kilowatts of building mounted solar.
Really?
On this building.
See, then we should
Cool.
do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's do it.
This is great. I feel like it's a really interesting piece of work, and I think that I heard that there were a lot of survey respondents and a lot of engagement. Besides the data cleaning, what were some of the bigger challenges?
That's a great question. I think one of the challenges was determining the suitability thresholds for each criteria and working with the stakeholder group, specifically the technical advisory committee that we worked with, which was representatives from solar developers and state organizations, and first deciding what the different criteria would be that they wanted us to investigate, and then deciding how we were going to score each parcel. That took a lot of time to figure out what data we had available and what we would consider more or less suitable for each one.
Does something similar exist in other states?
I'm not sure. I know Synapse did another solar potential study for Rhode Island. Yes. I'm not quite sure if it had the same suitability analysis as this, though. But yeah, no, I'm not aware of any others.
Do you get to use your GIS skills a lot, or not as much as you'd like?
A little bit, yeah. I definitely would love to do more GIS work. It's always fun to dig into some cool maps and make really cool products like this story map. It's been so fun to create this website that a lot of people can use and see the results.
It's so great to take a technical important issue that people get people have strong opinions about siting solar, right? And where can you put it in trees versus clean energy and just that whole, we gotta meet our climate goals, and to take a technical approach and really just analyze the heck out of it and say, okay, here's what we can do this, we can do this, and to kind of spell it all out in a accessible, open, sourcey kind of way. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that another part of this report and this analysis that I was not involved in was a considerable survey effort and a lot of community stakeholder meetings and collecting data on survey respondents' attitudes towards solar on different types of land. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out that section of our report.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. This is a really good episode, I'm sure, and a really good topic.
Great episode. Everyone should watch it.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.